What is the ruling on fasting the month of Ramadan? Ramadan, fasting it is one of the pillars of Islam. So it is the highest obligation in our religion. It's a pillar, it's mandatory, it's obligatory. Allah says in the Quran, O you who believe, decreed upon you is fasting as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous. Allah says, so whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. So fasting is mandatory. Talha, may Allah be pleased with him, says that a nomad came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, O Prophet of Allah, tell me, what has Allah obliged upon me to fast? So the Prophet said, ﷺ, the month of Ramadan. So the nomad said, do I have to fast anything else? The Prophet said, no, except if you would like to offer something voluntary. And the consensus, so this is the Quran's evidence of its obligation. This is the Sunnah evidence of its obligation. And then we go to the third branch of evidences, which is the consensus of the Muslim scholars and the Muslims at large, that it is mandated, it is an obligation. Whoever denies it or rejects fasting of Ramadan, says, no, I don't believe of its obligation, then he is a disbelieving apostate. Now, Muslims usually fast Ramadan. How do they fast Ramadan? There is a condition for that. And this condition is that the Muslims in a region have to see the crescent. They have to see the new moon being born in order to identify that the month of Ramadan has entered. And this is part of the ease of Islam with the grace of Allah. Those who depend on Gregorian calendars, February, March, April, etc., can never know when the month started and when the month ended, except by looking at their calendars or their watches. If they were stranded in an island, if they went into a coma and woke up, they can never know that. In Islam, everything is easy. We depend on the lunar months. So just looking at the heavens, looking at the skies above you, you can identify whether in the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, or the end of the month. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, when you see it, then fast. When you see the new moon, this is when you should begin to fast. And he says, alayhi salatu wasalam, fast when you see it and stop fasting when you see it. And if it is too cloudy for you to see, then complete the month of Sha'ban as 30 days. So this is a very easy thing for all Muslims to handle. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You see the new moon, then this is the beginning of the month. If you fail to see the new moon, because the month is either this or this. This is what the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam. A lunar month, an Islamic month, can either be 29 days or 39 days, or 30 days. It cannot be 31. And it cannot be 28. This is a given. So when it is today, the 29th of the previous month of Ramadan, which is Sha'ban, the 29th is over, sunset is done. We go out and we try to look and trace the new moon. We did all that we can. We even used telescopes. And this is permissible because the Prophet said, alayhi wasallam, fast for seeing it and refrain from fasting, break your fast for seeing it. So we have to have a visual contact. We can do this with binoculars, with telescopes and the likes. This is permissible in Islam, but we can't depend on calculations and say, no, 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 tomorrow is the first of Ramadan by calculation. No, it has to be a visual contact. It has to be seen visibly. So if we fail to see it, then by default tomorrow is the 30th of Sha'ban. Whether we fail to see it because it was not born, or it was cloudy, or it was dusty, so we have to fast the following day and consider it to be the 30th of Sha'ban, and then by default the following day would be the first of Ramadan. An important point is that each region has its own sighting of the moon. And this is an issue of dispute among scholars. They say we should unite and the whole globe should fast the first day of Ramadan on a Saturday, because we've sighted the moon in New Zealand. So the people in the United States or in Europe or in the Middle East should follow. And this is not the most authentic opinion, because Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, who is one of the greatest companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and his cousin, and at the same time, one of the greatest scholars of the companions. In Sahih Imam Muslim, when Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, was the ruler of the Muslims, he was in Sham, in Syria, in the Levant countries. And before Qurayb, the Tabi'i, said to Medina, it was the day of Ramadan. And he reached Medina at the end of Ramadan. So Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, asked him, when did you guys see the new moon in Syria? He said, we saw it at the night of a Friday. Ibn Abbas said, in Medina we saw it at the night of a Saturday. We saw it the following day. So we will continue until we see the new moon, or we can complete the month 30. So Qurayb said to him, wouldn't it be sufficient to follow our sighting in Syria? Meaning you should consider Ramadan had started on Saturday, on the night of Friday, which is a Saturday. Not like you, it started on a Sunday. Shouldn't that be sufficient? He said, no, this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the Sunnah. This is how the Prophet ordered us to do. And this is the closest and most authentic opinion according to the evidences we have at hand. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, so whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. What does this mean? That if I did not witness the new moon, if I'm in Malaysia and I didn't witness the moon, yes, they witnessed it in Mecca, but it's a different region, it's a different place altogether. Then we do not follow their sighting, we follow our own region's sighting. And this is what the Prophet said, ﷺ, fast when you see it and stop fasting when you see it.